Okay, roll the videotape. We had a shaila like this, that you did a shchita limnu for people who can go ahead and who are gemalit. They can go ahead and they could eat. People who, in order to eat from the carbon pesach, you have to be circumcised. So you did the shchita from circumcised people as you're supposed to. But in b'shas hashchita, you had in mind to do the zrika for people who are not circumcised, for arelim. Is the carbon kosher or not? Says Rabbi, there's no machshav in the zrika, it works. Says Rav Chisda, there is a machshav in the zrika, it doesn't work. The Gemara is grappling, trying to find the source. We tried, exhausted one source, and now we're going to try to do another source. We're going to go over it again. It's the source by the carbon oila, and it's speaking about this the ritzui, the acceptance of a carbon is totally in the zrika. That completes the avodas adam. So with that introduction, let's see. We're going to begin from the bottom, the last line on Samech Aleph Amid Beis. Ella Amar Ravashi, Rav Chisda v'Rabba Amid Aleph, B'hai Kro Kamiflagi. They're arguing in the following pasuk. They're arguing in the following pasuk. Again, Rabbi is saying it's the kosher carbon that the machshava of the zrika b'shas shchita vis-a-vis arelim does not go ahead and ruin it. It says by the carbon oila v'nertzalai, it'll be marutza, it'll be accepted for him l'chaper alav, to be for its purpose. Kapara by an oilus for the mitzvah saseh, you didn't put on tzitzis, you didn't put on tefillin. But over here, the application would be le'inyan, whether it's accepted for a carbon pesach or not. Now, v'nirtza means the act, the zrika of v'nirtza. So therefore, l'chaper alav alel chaveroi, on him and not his friend. In other words, this is a simplistic way of saying shinui bailim. You have to be nischaper a love on him and not on his friend. The carbon has to be for you. This is what's called in the trade shinui bailim. Rabbi Savar chavera dumya didei. In order for the zrika to be unacceptable for shinui bailim, and in this case, guys, that's our shaila. The Baal is the mulin, is the circumcised person. The arelim is the not the Baal, because he can't be accepted. So Mimela says, Rabba, the two people over here by Shinui Bailim have to be comparable. They have to be both people in the ballpark. They have to be both Met fans, right? So if they're both in the ballpark, then it works. But if they're not both in the ballpark, for example, the kosher guy's a Met fan, and the Oral is the Yankee fan, so rather they're not in the ballpark, so therefore it's not going to work. I know I'm playing to the crowd. We don't have that putz from Philadelphia here. Says the Gemara. Day. Mahu dava deba kapara. I'm sorry, that's on tape. Mahu deba kapara. Avkavera deba kapara. Oh gosh, see David, you bring out the worst in me. Says the Gemara. Just like he's a bar kapara, I mean, he's a person, in this case, who's mechuyev in Pesach, so too, his friend is a bar kapara, he's mechuyev in Pesach. Memela, since the oral is not mechuyev in Pesach, therefore, it's not a chesaron that you did the zrika for him, because that's not a part of Shinu Bailam. La fuke hay oral, to exclude this oral, la bar kaparahu. He's not a bar kapara. So guys, just go back to the Amid Beis, the top line, to the Shiloh. Amid Beis. Yesterday's Amid Beis. Shachta lemulin. You shechted it for the mulin. Let's consider them the people who are in the ballpark. Al minashe yischapu boyarelim, on the condition that what? That the zrika should be for people who are out of the ballpark. Says Rabbi, it's good. You know why? Because those people, the problem of Shinu Bailim is only when they're both in the ballpark. The Oral's out of the ballpark. He never was in. Memela, it's good. That's the shita of Rabbi. Back by us in the Gemara now. Rav Chisda said, no, they can be both. One can be a Yankee fan, one can be a Met fan, and one can be a Yankee fan. Hayro Nami, Kivin the Bar Chiyuvahu, since the Yankee fan can do tshuva and become a Met fan, right? In other words, he can go ahead and cut off his Arla. Bar Kabarahu, he's a Bar Kapara. Now here's the key. In other words, you can be mitaking the problem. You can be mitaking it. Hoil di boy mitaking nafshe. Now, look what you just said. Says Rav Chisda, you're right. Right now, he's not in the ballpark. And Shini Bailim should not be a problem. But when do we say Shinu Bailim is not a problem? Only when he's never going to be in the ballpark. In other words, he's a guy. He can't be my guy, whatever it is. But an oral, let him go ahead and do a bismillah, and you'll be in the ballpark. Memela, the zrika is Shinui Bailim, and therefore it won't work. And that's Rav Chisda Shita. It won't work. Good. Hoyle. Now listen to what he said. Hoyle, since he could do the Mila, even though he didn't, he's considered a contemporary, and it will be a love v'lei al chaveiroi and be Shinui Bailim. We've been introduced to the concept of oil many times, and particularly in this Masechta, right? We said, if you go ahead on Yom Tif and you bake or cook for Chayil, can you eat it or not? Do you get Malchus or not? Guys, listen up. Says Rabbi, you don't get Malchus. Chayil de Chazi la'orchim. Since you could go ahead and invite Orchim, right? You don't get Malchus. So the Rabbi says Chayil. Since I could have Orchim, interesting enough, over here, Rabbi did not say Hoyel, since I could go ahead and be metaking myself by circumcising myself. Conversely, Rav Chisda, by that same case by Beitza, he says, guess what? He says that, he says Hoyel. He says by Beitza, he doesn't say Hoyel, and therefore you would get Malchus. And we don't say since you could have invited Achim. Conversely, over here he's saying Hoyel, since he could have been attacking himself by having a bris milah, he's in the ballpark, and therefore the Korban Pesach's no good. So you have stira in Rabbah from Beitza, the cooking for Hoyel, and a stira Rabbah and Rav Chisda by Korban Pesach, where the Rabbah doesn't say Hoyel and Rav Chisda does say Hoyel. Let's see it inside. Says the Gemara Geshmak, Umi Islay Rav Chisda Hoyel. Does Rav Chisda really hold the concept of Hoyel? Guys, we had this in this Masechta not too long ago. For Itmar, we learned someone bakes on Yantif L'chayol, which again, you can only bake for Yantif and not for Chayol. Rav Chisda Amar Loika. Rav Chisda says you can get Malchus. Rabbi Amar Ein Loika. Rabbi says you won't get Malchus. Rabbi Amar Ein Loika. Why? I mean, Chayol v'imikloi Archim Chazilei. Since if Archim would show up, you would be able to go ahead and bake for them, despite the fact that you don't have to bake for yourself because you're satiated. Now also, since that could happen, hypothetically, you're good. You don't get Malchus. You're lucky. Rav Chisda, no, like you get Malchus. Why? Loy amin and Hoyel. You don't say Hoyel. So we have a stira minei ubei. Rabbah and Rabbah, Rav Chisda and Rav Chisda. Guys, listen to the difference. By Mila, you're missing an action. You're missing a physical action. You're missing the act of cutting off the foreskin. Says Rabbah, in such a situation, you don't say Hoyel. Over there by Archim, it's a kedibur. Just invite them. That little act we will say. So it's not pshat you don't say Hoyel. You have to look. You look at the scenario. As we saw Taisus there, if you remember. It's Hoyel. How could you ever go ahead and be Machal Shabbos Hoyel Pekuach Nefesh? Taisus says the Gavaldik Akasha. Since you're allowed to go ahead and be Machal Shabbos or Pekuach Nefesh, guys, how could you ever get Malchus or be Chayiv and Oynish on Shabbos? Why do we say Hoyel B'Chayzulei Pekuach Nefesh, right? So Taisus answered, Milsad Shchichi, we don't say Hoyel by. In other words, it's not a carte blanche statement. You always say Hoyel. You have to look at the scenario. So over here, I'm looking at the scenario. Over here, we have to do a Maisa, says Rabbi, you don't say Hoyel. Over there, we don't have to do a Maisa. It's simply a Dibur. I'll say Hoyel. What about Rav Chisda? Over there, he doesn't say Hoyel. Over there, he says Hoyel. Over there, the Hoyel is what? It's the Kula or a Chumrah. It's a Kula. I'm not going to get Malchus because of the Hoyel. It's saving me from Malchus. Over here, the Hoyel is a Chumrah. It's going to go ahead and be Mechayev me that the Korban Pesach's no good. Rav Chisda won't say Hoyel by a Kula. Rav Chisda would say Hoyel by a Chumrah. Let's see it inside. Rabba, okay. So Bishleim, very good. The Rabbi Lekasha, Hacham Mechusa Maisa, Hasam Le Mechusa Maisa. Elad Rav Chisda Kasha, Amar Kiles Le Rav Chisda Hoyel Lekula. He doesn't hold by Yontif where it's a Kula, you won't get Malchus. But Lechumrah that what? You're going to be, Korban Pesach's not going to be good. Islay, he does say Hoyel. Okay, that's the end of the machlokes and the explanation between Rabbi and Rav. And Rabbi and Rav Chisda. we're going back to yesterday's daf, to the brisa. Okay, let me just remind you about yesterday's daf. Here we go. We wanted to learn out, initially, we want to learn out Arla from Tameh. Meaning, we had, on one side we had Tameh, on the other side we had Pigel. And we had in the middle of my face is Arla. It's a question. Is Arla meaning, I went ahead, I shechted the animal for people who are gemalit, who are circumcised, and for people who are not circumcised. If I compare it to Tameh, it works. Why? Because people who are Tameh and people who are Tahar, the Mishnah said, if you shecht for people who are Tahar and people who are Tameh, it works. Okay? And therefore, who are then will be Arla. Or no, do I go to the side of Pigel? Just like Pigel is a psul, so too what? So too is Arla a psul. That's the two ways to look at it. Good? The Gemara is going to question now, your tzushtel to what? To Tuma, what exactly was it? Look back in the Mishnah, guys. Look back in the Mishnah Samachala. Shachtel shaloy la'oichlav shaloy l'mnuyav. You shechted it for people who can't eat, people who are not counted in. La'arelim u'tameim pasal. In other words, the only people I shechted for were arelim. The only people I shechted for were tameim. However, now la'oichlav shaloy la'oichlav I shechted for both. L'mnuyav shaloy l'mnuyav I shechted for both. La'mulim or arelim I shechted for both. La'tameim l'taharim kasha. Now, if you're going to tell me the Tameim means some people Tar, some people Tameh, then why do you have a kasha by what? Mulim and Arelim. It's a Mefurish Mishnah. It's the exact same scenario. Guys who are Tameh, guys who are Tahar, guys who are Gemalit, guys who are not Gemalit. So why was it a Shaila by Oral and it wasn't a Shaila by Tameim? Therefore, we're going to redo the Tameim, not to be speaking about people, but actually to be speaking about the meat being Tameh. So again, what we're doing now, the whole focus of the Gemara is go back and analyze yesterday's brisa with the comparison of Arla to Tameh, the comparison of Arla to Pigel. So the first one is we're analyzing the comparison between Oral and to Tuma. Let's see it.
Isn't it possible that the guy gets a bris between the Shechita and the Echila by the Carbon Pesach? It's possible.
It has to be, you shachted, you have to be counted in. At that time, you have to be. If you're not in the ballpark, you're out. You could have a Mila, right? You could have, I think we're going to have a Gemara later on about a Geiris taking place in between. We're going to see such a Shaila, right? That'll be the same thing, right? Where you're out of the ballpark, you're in the ballpark, but you're at the 50, but not at the touchdown, right? But you're not at the other guys, on the yard line. Says the Gemara. Now, we learned Hoil v'Arla Paiseles. Since Arla being an Arla apostles, the Tuma Paiseles and Tuma apostles, Ma Tuma lo yoseba miktsas Tuma kikol Tuma. Just like Tuma, we don't say if you're completely Tameh. As long as some people are in the ballpark, it works. Arf Arla, so to Arla, lo yoseba miktsas Arla kikol Arla. Now, Hai Tuma hechidami. You're comparing Arla to Tuma. What exactly is the case of Tuma? Hechidami. Ilema bituma gavra. If we're speaking about a man who's tameh, tuma of the person, umaylei asaba mixas tuma means kechala tuma means diika arba v'chamisha gavre tamein. If you have 4 or 5 guys who are tameh, an arba v'chamisha gavre tahirin, and 4 or 5 guys are tahar, and they want chabura like pasli lahu tamein l'tahirin, right? And therefore the tameim don't pass l'tahirin. That's the way Pashut I would explain it, right? Some guys in, some guys out. But since some guys are in, it doesn't pass the carbon. Gabe Arlanami, Haloi Pasli. In the same scenario, if it's an oral and Gemalit, in Mulin, it doesn't pass. None, as I just showed you in the Mishnah. Lamulin ul kasha. Maishna Tuma de Pshitale, Umaishna Arla de Mesafkale. What's the difference by Arla where you're not sure, and by Tameim you are sure? So if in your analogy between Arla and Tameh is that the Tameh is speaking about people who are Tameh and people who are Tahar, then you should have a Shaila by Arla either, that some are Gemalit and some are not. So it must be we have to redo our idea of what Tumah was. What's what Ella? The Tumah Spasar. It must be speaking about the meat is Tameh. Umay loy asaba mixas tuma kechala tuma. And what does it mean we don't make all part of it like all of it? You have a carbon that's cut up. If tuma touches a sheretz, touches one of the ivarim, it means sarfinan lay. The one that became tuma, you'll burn. If you eat v'chachlina lay, the other one you'll eat, right? And that's chat. So therefore, I'll compare it to tuma, just like tuma partially is in and partially is out. So to arla, okay, says the Gemara, b'mayu kimta b'tumas basa. Now, you said the first part of the brisa of yesterday is speaking about tumas basa. What we're going to do now is bring in the rest of the brisa and see if the way you establish it speaking, or in Yiddish, the way, Steve, like we say in New Orleans, the way we zetz the dain, right? The way we zetz the dain, right? It's going to be, is it consistent? Is it consistent? Now, Ema Seifa, Donin dava she'ena noi b'chol azvachim, mi dava she'ena noi b'chol azvachim, let's go ahead and compare something that's not noi b'chol azvachim. We said yesterday, outside guys, the din of arla, an aral, and the din of tuma is only by Pesach. If you're an aral or if you're tamei, you can always send the carbon. I have a carbon oila. I made a neder to give a carbon oila. I'm tamei or an aral. I can send it with anybody. I had anything. The only carbon, that special psul of arla and tamei, is the carbon Pesach. And you know why that is? Because you have to eat the carbon Pesach. Guys, again, I can't repeat this enough. Speak of it, listen up. Every carbon you don't have to eat. You just have to make sure it doesn't become nicer. That you eat the carbon is to go ahead and be over on the issur of, let's say, siru imenu abayke, that lav. The achil is to avoid an avera. By carbon Pesach, the whole shchita is to eat it. Memela, if I'm an aral and I can't eat it, or if I'm tummy, I can't eat it, carbon Pesach's possible. So that is a unique din to carbon Pesach. It doesn't exist by any other carbon. Good? So Masha'en Kain Zman, Pigel, exists by every carbon. The machshava of chutzless man in one of the four avodas in the shchita, the Kabbalah, the Halachas Rika, is b'chol kabbanis. Now, so therefore it makes more sense, the oral, in our analogy, to go this way to pair it to, okay, now, how does that fit in with our lumdis that we just said? We said the Reish is speaking about tumas basar, correct? Yeah, not tumas gavra, tumas basar. So let's fit that concept in. So by Masha'en Kain Tuma, which is only noyeg by what? Tumas bas is only noyeg by Pesach. Is that true? Tumas bas is not by any other thing. Bishleim, if it's speaking about a man, I have a chilik. Man Tuma is only by Pesach, not by any other carbon. But if you're telling me it's speaking about what? Tumas basar, Tumas basar is universal. So the words of the brisa make no sense. It's a universal thing, Tumas basa. It's not limited to the Gavra. So again, the way you establish the Reisha is not fitting in the Seifa of the Brisa. Let's see the words of the Brisa. What? Tumas basa. You're saying the Reisha is speaking about Tumas basa. One Aver was Tameh and the other one was not. Amos Seifa. Let's look at the Seifa of the Brisa. Let's go ahead, compare Tuma, oral to Tuma, which is only by Pesach. But don't compare oral to pigel. Now, umay tuma. What tuma are we speaking about that's only by Pesach? Name it tumas basa. If it's the meat is universal. It's not unique to Pesach. Ela pshita b'tumas gavra. So it must be that's Seifa, the tumah you're speaking about there is a person, because then that's unique to Pesach. Umay inenoi b'chal esvachim, dila b'chal esvachim, or as I just told you, aral b'tamei mishalchin kaban asayim. They can send their kabanis. V'ilu b'Pesach, aral b'tamei ein mishalchin b'schayim. Comes out Reisha b'tumas basa. The Reisha analogy was speaking about tumah of meat. And Seifa b'tumas gavra, and we all know by now, we always want a Mishnah to be consistent, speaking in the same case. And we're forced to say, Amalei in, Shein Tuma Kaparich. It's not a kasha. When we said Tuma, We weren't speaking about the specific instance of Tumah. We were speaking about the genre Tumah. The genre Tumah. It could be Tumas Basa, it could be Tumas Adam. All we care about is the genre of Tumah. And that's what we're speaking about. That's one teretz. Iba Yisema, Sefer Nami b'Tumas Basa. Okay, now, guys, listen to this. The Sefer is also speaking about Tumas Basa. Let's go through it. Outside. What's that problem? Tumas Basa is across the board. It's not limited to Pesach. It's across the board. So what does it mean, the statement that it's only noig by Pesach and it's not noig by other places? So we're going to see, Bez Hashem, we have what happens if you shech a carbon and you have no meat. You have no meat. You lost the meat. You have a murim, right? You have a murim. Question: can you go ahead, what, and do the zrika? Can you do the zrika even though there's no meat around? Tomata. You only have fat. Says Rabbi Yeshua, you go ahead and go for it. No problem. What happens if you have no fat? You only have meat? Says Rabbi Yeshua, you have no problem. Says Rabbi Yeshua, as long as one or the other is around, you can do this zrika. By Pesach, it's not so. By Pesach, you need the meat around. In other words, if you only have the chalev, you would not be able to go ahead and sprinkle the dam. So therefore, when it says Toima Tuma, that's Ein Noig B'chol Azvachim. What do you mean Ein Noig B'chol Azvachim? The din of Tumas Basar is not Noig B'chol Azvachim by Pesach like it is all over. All over, whether it is meat or fat, interchangeably, you can go ahead and do the Zrika. Pesach, it's unique. Why? You need the Basar. Because again, going back to our Yisod, the whole purpose of the Korban Pesach is Achila. Once you have that Yisod, guys, everything makes sense. So now, very geschmack. Let's see it inside. V'ba Yisema, Sefer Nami b'Tumas Basar. The Sefer is also speaking about Tumas Basar. Umay ein noy b'chol azvachim, de'ilu b'chol azvachim, regular carbon, ben shenit mechelev u'basar kayim, ben shenit mebasar b'chelev kayim, zarek es adam. De'ilu b'Pesach, nit mechelev u'basar kayim, zarek es adam, because the bus is around. Nit mebasar b'chelev kayim, ein zarek es adam. You can't go ahead and be zarek es adam. So now let's go back to the Brisa. Let's go back to the Brisa and stick everything in. Let's go back to yesterday. Go to Daf base. Go to Amid base. Go to Samach Aleph Amid base. You go down about 8 lines. It says, Hoyel v'orla paiseles v'tuma paiseles. Ma tuma le'yoseba mikzas tuma kechala tuma. If you have a vorim of meat, we don't say if sama tame they're all tame. Afar le'yoseba mikzas orla kechala orla. We won't say if some people are arelim that they're all arelim. Next case, right? Oiklach l'derech zu. Hoyel orla paiseles. No, let's skip it. Nirlemi daima, no. Nirlemi daima. Something that's not noig b'chol azvachim. What is that? That's tumas gavra, right? But we said no. It's speaking about tumas basar. What do you mean ein noig b'chol azvachim? The halacha that you need basar around to do the zrika. That's not noig b'chol azvachim, because other zvachim, just the chalev alone would be enough. Over here by Pesach you need the basar. So now they're both speaking about tumas basar. Geschmack, guys. Geschmack. You have it inside. The Gemara now will continue to go through the Brisa and analyze it and try to fit the scenarios in. Let's go back by us now. Okay. But my so 2 lines from the bottom. How you zessing it? The Tumas Basar, Ema Seifa, the Seifa of that Brisa. Don and Davash Leichuta Mechlaloi, Midavash Leichuta Mechlaloi. Vial Techiach Tuma Shaychucha Mechlaloi. Guys. In my analogy, here's my I'm Orla, my head is Orla, this is Tuma, this is Saman. This over here, there's never a heta for Pigel. Pigel is always Pigel. Tuma is not always Tuma. Tuma is Hutra bit Sibur. If the Sibur is Tame, you're able to bring the Karbanis B'Tuma. So given my druthers, should I compare an oral to Zaman, which never has a heter, both of them? Once you're an oral, you're an oral. This doesn't have a heter either. This has a heter. So now, question, if it's speaking about Tumas Basa, guys, Tumas Basa never has a heter. Tumas Basa, it's tummy. You can't eat it. You can bring the carbon. Bishleim, if it's speaking about the person, it makes a lot of sense. The person, oral, is never in the ballpark. Pigel's never in the ballpark. Tame, if everyone's Tame, it's in the, or Roiv is Tame, Roiv the Kahanim, Roiv the Tzibur, it's in the ballpark. But if you're telling me now, it's speaking about Tumas Basar, that, as we just went through, the meat is Tame, you never have a time where the meat is Mutter. So the pshat of Tumas Basar, fitting it in a brisa, that segment of the brisa, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So let's see it inside. Says the Gemara. Go ahead. Tuma hutter. V'altachiach mituma shari chutzah b'chol. V'mai ilema amid beis. Ilema b'tumas basar. If you're speaking that the meat is tamei, heichi hutra. You never have it mutter, guys. It never is. So we brought in A, B, and C. Brisa A, Brisa B, Brisa C. We said the first two are speaking about tumas basar, but you have a problem telling Tumas Basar in segment C. El Pshita b'Tumas Gavra. V'heicha hutra mechlala. Where do you find Tumas Gavra that it's mutter? Is B'tzibur. Guys, this is one of the famous heterim in the world. We have a shaila was Tumas Hutcha or Tumas Hutra, right? Whether it's a heter or whether it's just pushed off. Nafkamina is whether you can eat it or not, right? We paskin, even though you bring it behet, guys, even though you can bring the carbon, you can't eat the carbon. Except one, carbon Pesach. Except one, carbon Pesach. Again, what's the aside? The whole purpose of the carbon is what? Is to eat it. So even though usually the heter of Tumah is to permit bringing it, even if you can't eat it, by the carbon Pesach, you can eat it. Now let's see Geshmak Pshat. Reisha b'tumas basa and Seifa b'tumas gavra in Shem Tumah Kaparach. The same terrace we gave before. The genre of Tumah is in the ballpark. By same and no Kula b'tumas basa, guys. A is tumas basa, B is tumas basa, and C is tumas basa. Behechi hutra. Where do you find that basa is mutter? Where do you find tamei dika meat mutter, guys? B'tumas Pesach, by a carbon Pesach. That nan Pesach haba b'tumah, a Pesach that's bought b'tumah. Nechal b'tumah is what is permitted b'tumah. Why? Shlei boy mitchilasai elalachila. The whole purpose of bringing it was only b'achila. So it comes out very geshmak. We had the brisas all speaking about what? About meat. The first part of the brisas, tamei, speaking about evarim. Madach, one gets tamei, the other one's mutter. So too orlo, one's an orlo, one's tamei. The second part of the brisa is speaking about what? It's speaking about pigel. What do we say about pigel? We said tumas basa that it's not noyig. It's not noyig by everything. What does that mean? It's speaking about it's different. Pesach's different than any other place. Why is it different than the other place? Because every other place, if you have either the fat or the meat, you can sprinkle the damakon of Yeshua. By Pesach, you need the meat around, and that's the pshat in part B. Part C, Tumah Hutra B'tzibur, is speaking about people or meat. It's speaking about meat. And Taka Tumas Hutra by meat, by the carbon Pesach, as opposed to every other carbon, it's not. So we have pshat in the brisa. It's all speaking about meat, and meat. Okay. We began to share, guys. We said that Rav Chisda did not hold of the hoil by orchim because it was a kula, that you don't get malchus from baking on yontif. He did hold of the hoil by the chumrah to make the carbon pesach puzzle, saying the zrika that you did shashchita lemulin, and the zrika was le'orelim, it would be hoil, since the guy can go ahead and circumcise themselves. If he circumcises himself now, they're considered a love for loyal chaveroi. And now he's considered a contemporary. It would be shinui bailim, and it wouldn't work. It would be shinui bailim, and it won't work. It's interesting lumdus, right? The reason why he's an oral, it doesn't work, is because he's not an oral, right? It's shinui bailim. We wanted to create a scenario of shinui bailim. Again, that Gemara that I just mentioned, that top line in the Amid Beis, There are pages and pages and pages of Torah on that. A lot of raid, tremendous raid on that. Okay, anyway, let's attack that concept of Toil v'chumra. Let's attack that concept. Masiv Rav Huna, Raid Rav Yeshua. Right? We're going to question that now. HaPesach Shav Shenasai. Now, the Pesach has to be a year old, within a year. So the Pesach, it goes over a year. And now, once it's over a year, it's automatically a Shlomim. V'shachtei bismanoi l'shmoi, and you shechted on Yud Daled l'shem Pesach. So, it was the Pesach, you shechted for a Pesach, one technicality, it's more than a year old. Hashoichet v'chein hashoichet acherim l'shem Pesach. Other kabbanis, the Shlomim, you shecht l'shem Pesach, bismano on Yudalid, Rabbi Eliezer Paisel, Rabbi Yeshua Machsher. Rabbi Eliezer says it's Paisel, Rabbi Yeshua says it's Kasher. Taima, the reason is bismano. The reason why Rabbi Eliezer says it's Paisel is because it's Yudalid. Hashalai bismanoi, if it wasn't Yudalid, Kasher. It would be Kasher. V'amai, why should it be Kasher? Nema hoyelu bismanoi Paisel, since if you shechted on Yudalid, it would be Paisel. Shalai bismanoi nami Paisel. Let's say we want to be, guys, if you say hoyel to be machmir, like Rabbi Chisda says, why wasn't Rabbi Eliezer machmir? Rabbi Eliezer said the following: you shechted a Pesach on Pesach that was over a year old. Since it's bismanoi, it's not good. Mashma, if it wasn't bismanoi, meaning it wasn't Pesach, it would be good. Fred Gemara, if you say hoyel l'chumra, why don't we say hoyel? Hoyel, if I shechted in May or June, since I would have shechted in April, it wasn't good, right? So to over here, what? It would not be good. Just 1 second. Hi, Moshe, what's up? Oh, I'm saying share right now. Oh, I feel bad. I'm saying I'm on the Yomi base right now. I'll make it up with you when you come today. I'll give you the share, okay? Costa Rica wants to know what time share is. Okay.
He's still dangling.
No, he's not. He landed. Baruch Hashem. Svi, did your father show you that? Svi, your father showed you that? You'll see what we're talking about. The sickest thing you ever saw. Dov, I'll catch you up. I'll send it to you. Now, says the Gemara, guys, one more time. Rav Chisda said, Hoyel l'machmir. What did he say? Outside. He said, since you could have circumcised yourself. Since you could have, therefore, even though you didn't, the carbon's not good if the zrika was done for you. Why? We say hoyel to be machmir. Freg on Rav Chisda, if you say to hold be machmir, why in the world would Rabbi Eliezer hold if I shech over a year old Pesach, after Pesach, why would it be good? Why don't we say hoyel if I would have shechted it then, Pesach it's no good. Here it's also not good. That's what the Gemara wants to know. But my name of hoyel is man pashal is man nami pasal. Amra papa shani hasam. It's a special din by what? By the year old. Damakra the amarta zevach Pesach hu. What does hu mean? Hu b'havayasai. Right. It in its havaya, in its stage of Pesach. Loihu l'shem acherim. It can't be shechted for others. Loiacherim l'shmoi b'zmanoi. So we have a din. As long as it's Pesach, whether you shecht it as a Pesach or you shecht it not as a Pesach, it's pasal. Shu pasal. In the time where it's Yudalid, and if you would shecht it on Yudalid as a Shlomim, it's pasal. Acherim place on the Shmoi. Acherim, other meaning a year-old animal, will also be pasal. Shaloi bismanoi, if it's not this man, if it's in June or July, to pasal l'shem acherim. This carbon Pesach, which would be good for Shlomim, acherim kishem l'shmoi. Others would be kasher l'shmoi. So einochinami, you would say hoyel l'machmir. The reason you don't say hoyel over here is you have a pasuk to tell me not to. You have a pasuk to tell me that if I shecht a Pesach in June and July, you don't say hoyel. If I would have shechted it in April and Pesach, it's no good. June, July, it's also not good. You have a pasuk that says no. Only when in April, then it's no good. Anytime, but since you can't shecht the Pesach in June, July, you can't, a year-old animal, Shem Pesach would be good. Rabbi Simloi Asla Kamei Rabbi Yochanan. The Gemara now speaks about a very funny case. Rabbi Simloi came in front of Rabbi Yochanan, and Amalei told Rabbi Yochanan, Nisni li mar sefer yuchsin. Teach me the Sefer Yuchsin. Rashi brings Sefer Yuchsin. Look at Rashi. He says, what's the Sefer Yuchsin? Masnisan the Divrei Yomim. It's brises that have to do with Divrei Yomim, and it seems to be deal with Yichus. And it seems to be very difficult, as we'll see. So Rabbi Simlai, yes, Rabbi Yochanan teaches him. Amalei. So Rabbi Yochanan asked him, Mehechanat, what's your Yichus? Where are you from? Amalei Milud. I come from Lud. Mehechan, my Sricha, where do you live now? He goes, Nardoi. I live in the city of Nardoi. So Amalei, Rabbi Yochanan told Rabbi Simlai, Eini Dunyim, we don't teach it, Ein Shoinim, we have a different gersa. Leila Ludim, Veloila Nardoyim. Right? We don't, I guess because you don't have Yichus, Rashi says, right? You don't have Yichus. You want to listen to Yichus, I can't teach you this.
So New Orleans is definitely out, right?
The New Orleans is, we know where New Orleans is. You're the only good thing to ever come out of New Orleans. Nothing else was good in that place. That place is so far Darbin, that's why that flood came in and took care of it. Because Hashem, San Francisco's next. I'm telling you, these places, these are Darbin places. Unfortunately, the whole United States is next. Guys, if you get a hold of it, Rav Miller this week in a pamphlet, he says things 30 years ago that you would be floored. Rav Miller says, I'm not taping this. Back in the Gemara. So now we have the Sefer Yuchsin over here, right? We have the Sefer Yuchsin. Vashteit. So I can't teach it to you. Anyway, Kafya of Artsei. Rabbi Simlai kept on refusing. He kept on pushing Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, okay, I'll teach it to you. Amalei, Rabbi Simlai said, listen, I don't have much time. So Nisnaya begimel Yarche. Give me 3 months. Teach me in 3 months. Shokol Kala Pasuk Bey. Rabbi Yochanan picked up a piece of earth and he threw it at him. Amalei, Umay Bruria, the Visayu de Reb Meir. Bruria, the wife of Reb Meir. Barte de Rav Chanina ben Trajan, the daughter of Chanina ben Trajan. The Tanya, Flas Meir Shmaitza B'Yuma. She could learn 300 Gemaras in one day. Begimel Meis Ravasa. From 300, again, 300 is always a guzma. 300 Rabbonim. She couldn't get Sefer Yuchsin in 3 years. You want to learn Iran in 3 months? Okay, anyway, he shuckled when Reb Avsimlai was taking leave of Rabbi Yochanan. For also, Amalei, he said to him, Rebbe, Ma bein l'shmai l'shloi l'shmai, and l'oichlav l'shloi l'oichlav. Gavaldiga kasha, guys. Guys, look at me. We began the parak, right? We began the Mishnah. If you shech Pesach, l'shmai, l'shem Pesach, and then you change to shloi l'shmai, everyone says it's no good. Everyone says, no one disagreed, it's no good. We had a shaila, whether it's in one avodah, 2 avodas, but let's say 2 avodas, it's no good. What about if you shech l'oichlav v'shloi l'oichlav? It is good. What's the difference between the two? In both cases, you got a positive, a lishmoi, and people eating. In both cases, you have a negative, shaloi l'shmoi, psach shlamim, and people who can't eat, old people, decrepit people, right? Why by lishmoi works and why oichlav doesn't work? I don't understand the difference. We do understand the difference, right? But again, what's the difference? So let's see. So Rabbi Yochanan then tells to Rabbi Simlai, he says, like you're asking very good. So he says, Amalei, since you're a young Talmud Chacham, hey, sit down. I'll tell you the difference between l'shloi l'shmai and oichlav l'shloi l'oichlav. L'shmai l'shloi l'shmai psuloi begufai. One, your machshava is a psul in the animal itself. On the other hand, oichlav l'shloi l'oichlav is not in the animal, it's in the person. 2, l'oichlav l'shloi l'oichlav ain't place begufai. L'shmai l'shloi l'shmai i'ef shalavar isurai. You don't know which chelik is what is for the lishmai part and which chelik is the shloi lishmai part. La'oichlav u'shloi la'oichlav ef shalavar isurai. It's possible this goes for this one, this goes for that one. Lishmai shloi lishmai yeshnai b'dalei avodas. The psul of shloi lishmai can be in any one of the 4 avodas in the Srika, the Kabbalah, the Halach, and the Srika. La'oichlav u'shloi la'oichlav, as we said, ain't about avodas. It's only in the shchita, guys. Important. The psul of shloi l'oichlav is only in the shchita, not in the other 3. It's possible you have a carbon tzibur and oila that you shech as a shlamim. It's possible. La'oichlav sh'lo la'oichlav ain't a b'tziba kibiyachid. It's not kibitziba kibiyachid, guys. Oichlav sh'lo la'oichlav, you have to be contemporaries. You have to be the same, right? So you can't go from a tziba to yachid. It's not the same. So it's not shaykh to have the tziba of yachid. So that's the difference. Rashi says, "So begufay v'yef shlevarei yisur echad milsi." It's all one thing. In other words, you're making 4 chalukim. That's the same chiluk. The matam oma pasla begufay. What's the reason that you say that it's psul in the guf of the animal? Mishum v'yef shlevarei suroi. Because it's not possible to go ahead and be mevara the iser. Right? Yehuda Amar Rav Miyom Shenigna Sefer Yuchsin, from the time Sefer Yuchsin was hidden, right? This Rashi says it was forgotten. From the time it was forgotten, what happened? Toshas Koichen Shal Chachamim, the Chachamim they got weak. The Keyam Einehem, and their eyes became dim. In other words, their building in Torah became less and less. Okay, we'll see B'ez Hashem the rest on Motzei Shabbos. I wish everyone a good Shabbos. Florida Beefields, enjoy yourself.
What time, Motzei Shabbos?
7 o'clock. Svi, I don't want you drinking and getting too much out of hand. Again, you have another Beefield from Mela, but you got an image you have to live up to, so we have a little worried about you.
He's the head counselor.
I brought my Mets cap.
Benji, where's the key to the liquor cabinet?
In my pocket.
Great.
He took all the liquor down. There's nothing in the house.
They took the bar.
The whole bar. Sorry.
I was learning this morning with Leza. He's in Aruba. So he said to me, Rabbi, you cannot believe how much liquor Jack Shelby sent down.
You sent down?
Yeah, I mean,
there's no liquor over there.
He's the food logistics.
By the way, in my refrigerator, I meant to put it out where most is going to sit. I have a bottle of the Imperial beer, the shirt that he was wearing. I have a bottle.
I should give it to him. He's going to be there tomorrow.
Yeah, put it by his thing.
Put it by his stand-up?
Yeah, you'll see the thing. I meant to put it out.
Okay, I'll do it.
This comes out.
Okay, show Tzvi that video.
Right. I'm going to show it to now. Have a good Shabbos, everyone.
Shabbos, everybody.
Send it to me, Rabbi. 8 o'clock tomorrow, yes?
8 o'clock tomorrow, yes.
Thank you, Rabbi. Good Shabbos. Benji, enjoy.